A manhunt is underway in the United Kingdom. That's after an inmate escaped from a London prison on Wednesday morning. Daniel Khalife was in custody at Wandsworth prison, one of the country's largest jails. He's been accused of terrorism offences. Officials say that it's almost certain that he had inside help. Jonah Hull reports from London.
Daniel Abed Khalife was being held at London's Wandsworth prison when he's believed to have slipped out of the kitchen where he was working on Wednesday morning, strapping himself to the underside of a food delivery van. The former British Army soldier, being held pending trial on terrorism charges, was last seen dressed in a prison cook's outfit. He's now on the run, with a major manhunt underway to catch him.
He could be anywhere in the country at the moment, and yes, of course, we're mindful of the risk of him potentially leaving the country. We're focusing our efforts in London at the moment, so we have counter-terrorism officers now deployed across London, working with colleagues from across the Metropolitan Police and our partner agencies to try and find him here.
Opposition parties are asking awkward questions, like why a person being held on terrorism charges was in a Category B prison rather than a higher security facility, and also about the effect of budget cuts on the prison service, said to be overcrowded and under-resourced.
This was a catalogue of errors, this escape, or appears to be. I mean, we haven't had the report from the investigation yet, but it seems to me that a lot of procedures were not done or not done properly.
Who was on duty that morning? In what roles? Ranging from the kitchen to the prison gate. What protocols were in place? Were they followed?
Wandsworth Prison has an official capacity of 1,800, but successive inspections have found it to be 60 to 80% overcrowded. The government has ordered an urgent investigation, and even as long queues formed as police searched potential ports of exit, the government's Justice Minister promised Khalife will be found and made to face justice. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, London.
Joining me now to discuss this is John Podmore. He's a former governor of Belmarsh, Brixton and Swaleside prisons, and he joins us from Gloucestershire in the UK. What's the most surprising thing about all of this to you, sir?
Well, I mean, there are three surprising components here. One, that he was in Wandsworth, which I think, as has been described, as a Category B prison. I was governor, as you said, of Belmarsh, dealt with a lot of Category A prisoners, dealt with a lot of people on terrorist charges and terrorist convictions, and that's where he should be. That's where the security is at its highest, and that was the most appropriate location for him. So I don't understand why he was at Wandsworth. Even more curious is that he was due to appear at Woolwich Crown Court, and Woolwich Crown Court is a key part of the function, or servicing that court is a key part of the function of Belmarsh. So why he was transferred out, I don't know. It's deeply, deeply worrying that he held a position of responsibility. He was on remand, but yet he held a high-profile, much sought after, what we would call a plum job in the kitchen. Remand prisoners, because their status can change very quickly. They may need to go to court. They tend not to get much in the way of employment, which is not to say they shouldn't have employment, education, training, but because they are more transient prison population, they tend not to get those jobs. But in any event, the kitchen is where you put trusted prisoners who have been properly assessed, where they're seen.
What do prison authorities, what questions do they need to be asking now?
Well, they need to, I mean, there are two things. I mean, they need to be asking about why he was in Wandsworth. That's the first thing. They need to be asking why he held a prime position of responsibility in the jail, where he had access to vehicles and goods and services coming in and out of the jail. And there are two possible answers to this. It could well be that he was resourceful. He was a trained army officer, so he's, one imagine he's reasonably resourceful. So whether he was opportunistic, saw a gap in security, exposed that, and escaped on the spur of the moment.
So he escaped under a lorry. That's considered a fairly basic security breach, isn't it?
Yes, and Alex Short was talking about protocols. There are protocols in place that any vehicle coming into a prison and any vehicle going out of a prison should be searched on top, underneath and inside. That clearly didn't happen. Now, that might not have happened because of incompetence of staff who were not well trained, not well led, not well supported, or it could be because there's some form of collusion. The answer, I don't know. That is for what I'm glad to see is an independent inspection and not an internal investigation, which is the norm. So
the opposition in the UK has strongly suggested that this may actually reflect chronic underfunding and understaffing of prisons. Do you think that might be the case?
Yes, the entire prison system is chronically underfunded, chronically under-resourced. the staff that it does have, one, there are too few of them, and their experience levels are low. I mean, the average experience level in a lot of jails, 50, 60% of the prison officers have less than 2 or 3 years experience. And with that absence of experience goes, an ability and inability to get security absolutely right. But this is not just about Wandsworth. This is about a wider malaise of the prison system in the UK. It is failing and has been failing for many years. And this is one example of security failures. There are many others, and we have a chief inspector of prisons, we have a chief inspector of probation who's constantly cataloguing them. The problem is that we have prisons ministers who change by the hour, but we have prison senior management that's been there for decades and not being challenged enough into finding out why the prison system is bad. We can easily blame resources. We can easily blame overcrowding. Those are issues, but it goes beyond that.